Now, let's talk a little about the project I'm going to have you do with partially filled arrays. I'm going to hit play here. I actually like this one. I like them all. I like everything you can do in processing. Processing is the best thing ever. But this one's kind of fun and it's kind of thought-provoking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold. I've clicked my mouse button. Okay? It's made a circle there. I'm gonna pull it back. Okay. Mouse button's clicked. And then when I let it go, that's when it's gonna add it to the ball array. Okay. So all this is telling me is where the circle's gonna start and what velocity it's gonna have. The bigger tail I give it is how faster it goes, and the direction I pointed it is the direction it's gonna go. Okay. So this tells us something about X and Y. And so I'm going to point it over here. And after I let go of it, that's when the ball is added to the can of balls and updated. So we're still doing our partially filled array thing over here. Okay. Right now, there's one ball in the partially filled array, and it's going kind of fast. I can go a little faster. Oh, yeah. That one's going kind of nuts. I can go a little slower. That one's living its best life. And then I can just start going nuts. And it'll get to 30 balls, and then it won't let me add any more, but it won't freak out and say overload it. All right? So there's a check there to say, okay, so now my balls aren't getting made anymore. So there must be 30 balls on the screen, or there must be enough to be at whatever the capacity is. Okay, so we've got a lot of balls flying around on the screen. Maybe not 30. Maybe I had it at a different capacity. Are there 30? I can't do it. So that's the project. It could be fun. Another fun thing to do is to take out the background and make it flash like strobe, either with the outline with stroke and no fill, or with the using fill to be different colors or whatever, and you can see them go. You could also have them change colors based on like how fast you have them going. So how do we do this? You don't know exactly how to do this, but I'm going to give you some functions that will help you in doing this, okay? The first thing is, well, there's three functions here. So let me open up processing, and let's do some of these. Let me show you some of these functions, and I gotta look at reference. There's one called so it's mouse pressed, mouse dragged, and mouse I think I can remember them. Okay, let's see. Void mouse pressed. Yeah, okay. Notice how it changed colors. Void mouse dragged, drag, void mouse drag. Okay, obviously I didn't get that right. Well, that was a good start, but mouse drag processing. Okay, mouse dragged. Wait, what? I did write that, didn't I? Oh, maybe I didn't put the open and close parentheses and wait long enough. That seems like, I feel like I'm glad this is on video, because I think we need to go to instant replay to see whether I got that or not. Okay, so we got mouse dragged, mouse pressed, and mouse release. Let's do it in order. Void mouse release. Okay. And in void mouse released, you're going to create a ball. Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to add a ball class to this, right? You're going to say new tab, ball, whatever, and then put your copy and paste your ball class in it. Or, you know, modify one of your other ones. Or I wonder if you can duplicate a project. You can save as, so you could save it as something else and start working on it that way. all of those things. So you're going to create a ball and add it to your partially filled array. So this is the last thing that happens. So the first thing that happens is mouse pressed. You're going to put a circle on the screen at mouse XY. Okay. Mouse drag, you're going to create a line that represents the velocity. Okay. And then mouse release, you're going to create a ball. Okay. And using the constructor, right? You're going to invoke the constructor, your favorite friend. And you're also going to use the size of the line to get your X and Y velocity, okay? So using the size of your line to get your X and Y velocity. So the size of the line in X will give you the X velocity, the size of the line in Y will give you the Y velocity. I divided mine by 10 because, as you might imagine, 10 pixels isn't that big, or 20 pixels isn't that big, but 20 pixels a second, 20 pixels a frame is way too fast for you to see. So if you don't want to be like making like tiny little lines, you want to make something that's like bigger, and then divide it by something. So maybe I'll put a note in here, and X and Y velocity. So the length of the line, the length of the line in the X direction will be proportional to your X velocity. And I'm saying proportional there because you might have to divide. You might want to divide. I think you probably should divide. Otherwise, you're just going to have a super sensitive ball flying around. And the length of the line in the Y direction will be proportional to your Y velocity that you construct the ball with, okay? So that all makes sense, right? It'll be proportional. So if you divide it by a certain amount, and you'll have it go in that direction. X is this and Y is that, but I divided it by 10. So they're still the same relative to each other, so it'll still be going the same direction. But if you divide it by 10, then you can make bigger lines and not have it be way too fast. Good. So you're going to put a circle on the screen at mouse XY, right? You're going to create a line that represents the velocity. And then when you release it, you're going to create this ball. And what you're also going to do is you're going to create an array that's a can of balls, and it's a partially filled array. You're going to have void setup and void draw. Getting texted. Who texts at 11:28? Is this one of you guys? Is this one of the students? Yo, professor, something. No one's texting me. It's Boulderites. Boulderites text at 11:28 because it's 9:28 there in Boulder. Fun place to go in summer if you can get a trip to Boulder. It's not too far. It's actually not that bad too. You could probably find a 75. Okay, I'm not going way too delirious right now. Okay, size 300, 400, or whatever you want. I don't know why. Size, make it bigger, right? Like 800, 600, or 18. What was it? 1920 by 980 by 1080. You can just make it HD resolution. 1920 by 1080. 1080. Okay. And then you need to initialize your can of balls. And remember, with our partially filled array, we also have a number of balls floating around, okay? And we're going to initialize our number of balls to be 0, okay? Balls array, but don't construct any of the balls. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, that's what we did down here. We created a can of ball array, but we didn't construct any of the balls, right? Okay. All right, but don't construct any of the balls. 1920, initialize your can of balls array, but don't construct any of the balls. Right? So you're going to initialize the ball array. And where are we going to construct the balls? We're going to construct it in here when they do mouse release, because we don't know the velocity of the balls until they press the mouse down, they drag it, and they let it go. And then in void draw, well, this is where we'll update. So we'll update all the balls in can of balls, okay? And we're going to start this with the number of balls. So make a number of balls variable equal to 0, and that's what we're going to use to for example, to update. We don't want to update balls we haven't created yet. They're all going to be null. So we're only going to update the number of balls that are in the can, and that implies something about how our for loop is constructed, okay? Which indices have balls in them and which indices don't. And our partially filled array is always this scheme where we put stuff in, but then at some point the rest is all trash, okay? All trash. And you should remember that. Right now it's going to be all null, and for this particular project it's going to be all null. And the final thing is if the mouse is pressed and if we're not at capacity, right? So really, if we're at capacity, if we're not at capacity, then do this stuff, okay? So that's a lot, but it's not a lot. It's kind of interesting. It's not too complicated. I'll give you this file. I think I'll upload this file just so that you have it. It's not too complicated, but it's something you got to think about. I don't know. It looks fun. And if you get all the trippy colors going, then it's really fun. Make the strokes random, or make it based on the velocity. Or another thing I was thinking that's kind of fun is if you did the smaller velocities, you could make it a bigger ball, and as you pulled it back, the ball would become small. And so that would make sense because the smaller balls would be all faster and the bigger balls would be all slower. I don't know if it would make sense, but it would be fun. I don't know. I don't know what do you kids find fun these days? Do something that makes you happy. So remix the program any way you want. Skeleton code for students. Okay, skeleton code for students. If you want to use this skeleton code, because it's all commented up and down, remember to create, to put the ball class in. I mean, you'll know. If you try to run it and not have the ball class in there, it'll be like, hey buddy, where's the ball class? Next video.